Hey everyone, this is Karenology. You won't believe the insane drama that just unfolded. Let's get into it.
My name is Matthew Connor. I never imagined that owning a small plot of land with a modest home in the suburban enclave of Ridgewood Heights would lead to the most harrowing battle of my life. For years, I thought I had found peace, a home for my dog Milo and me, where mornings were serene and neighbors exchanged polite waves. That tranquility ended the day I received an ominous letter from the homeowner association. Notice of reassignment of community property, it read in bold letters. Beneath it, a paragraph informed me that my private parking lot, a 28,020 slab of concrete adjacent to my home, was now deemed shared community property. The letter cited a vaguely worded amendment buried in a recent homeowner association newsletter. My lot had been listed as underutilized and repurposed as a communal space for visitors. The rage boiled in my chest as I stared at the words. That parking lot wasn't just concrete, it was mine. I had saved for years to buy this house and every inch of its property. I marched to the homeowner association office the next morning, documents in hand, demanding an explanation. That was when I met her, Karen, the self-appointed spokesperson of the homeowner association. Platinum blonde hair piled high, sunglasses perched on her head even indoors, and an air of entitlement so thick you could choke on it. "Oh, it's you," she said, lips curling into a smirk when I introduced myself. "Mr. Connor, your lot. It's such an eyesore, don't you think? It'll be much better used by the community." I tried to keep my voice steady. "That's my property. I have the deed right here. You can't just take it." Karen's smile never faltered. "Oh, honey, the homeowner association can. You agreed to our rules when you bought your house. And besides, you're single, right? No kids, no family? You don't need all that space." Her words felt like a slap. "This isn't about need," I shot back. "It's about what's mine, and you have no right to take it." Karen raised a perfectly manicured hand. "Take it up with the board." "Oh wait, I am the board." She laughed and motioned for the next person in line. That night I returned home to a rude awakening. Construction cones and temporary fencing had been erected around my parking lot. Signs reading, "Future Community Lot," were plastered across the barriers. A crew of workers was unloading equipment, preparing to dig. "What the hell is this?" I shouted, running toward them. One of the workers shrugged. "We're just doing what we're paid to do. Talk to the homeowner association." Karen's car pulled up moments later. She stepped out with her usual smug expression, holding a clipboard. "Oh, Mr. Connor, didn't you get the memo? Construction starts tonight." I stood my ground. "This is illegal. I'm calling the police." Karen's smirk widened. "Go ahead, but I'd hate for you to waste their time. Everything we're doing is within homeowner association jurisdiction." I didn't care. I dialed 911. When the officers arrived, Karen launched into a theatrical performance, claiming I was hindering community progress and harassing the workers. To my dismay, the officers sided with her, stating it was a civil matter and suggested I contact a lawyer. The next day, I called my lawyer, Jenna Parker, a no-nonsense attorney with a reputation for taking down corrupt organizations. She reviewed my deed and confirmed what I already knew. The homeowner association had no legal claim to my lot. Jenna assured me we had a strong case, but the legal battle would take time. Meanwhile, I installed security cameras around my property. It wasn't long before they captured something shocking: a drone hovering outside my window. When I reviewed the footage, I spotted Karen's unmistakable figure operating the device from her backyard. Armed with the evidence, I filed a harassment complaint. Karen retaliated by suing me, claiming the parking lot was hers and accusing me of invading her privacy with the cameras. The first hearing was set for 2 weeks later. On the day, Karen strutted into the courtroom like she owned the place. During her opening statement, she pointed at me dramatically and declared, "Your Honor, this is my land. I've cared for it, maintained it, and it's been used by my family for years. Mr. Connor is just trying to exploit a technicality to keep it." I couldn't believe her audacity. My lawyer, Jenna, calmly presented the deed and photographic evidence showing Karen's lies. The judge seemed skeptical of Karen's melodrama, but reserved judgment until the next hearing, giving her time to provide proof of her claims. As we left the courtroom, Karen turned to me with a venomous glare. "This isn't over, Connor. You're going to regret this." Little did I know that was just the beginning. Over the following weeks, my water was mysteriously shut off, Anonymous complaints about my property violations flooded the homeowner association, and more drones appeared. I was being targeted from all sides, but I wasn't going to back down. They had underestimated me. This wasn't just about a parking lot anymore. It was about standing up to bullies who thought they could steamroll anyone in their way. As I prepared for the next court date, I knew one thing for sure. This was war, and I was ready to fight. After the initial courtroom clash, I had hoped for a brief reprieve. But Karen and the homeowner association were relentless. My small parking lot had become the battleground for a much larger war, and I was caught in the crossfire. Every day brought new challenges, each one designed to wear me down. But if Karen and her cronies thought I would give up, they didn't know me well enough. One morning I woke to find my car missing. At first I thought it had been stolen, but a closer look revealed a neatly printed notice taped to my front door. Your vehicle has been towed due to improper parking in a community-designated area. The letter bore the official stamp of the homeowner association. Karen's handiwork was unmistakable. Rage surged through me as I called the towing company. They confirmed my car had been moved to an impound lot, on Karen's direct orders. I wasted no time driving there in a borrowed vehicle. When I arrived, the manager shook his head sympathetically. "She's done this to other folks," he said, handing me the bill. "But her paperwork is always just barely legal." Paying the hefty fee to retrieve my own car was infuriating. I knew this wasn't about parking. It was about intimidation. And Karen was playing dirty. That night, my security cameras captured more suspicious activity. Two men in hooded sweatshirts crept onto my parking lot under the cover of darkness. They spray painted over my property markers and installed new signs reading "Reserved for community use." I called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, the vandals were gone. The officers were polite but unhelpful. "This sounds like a civil dispute," one of them said. "You'll need to take it up with the homeowner association." Karen must have been watching, because the next morning she showed up at my door. "Oh, Matthew," she cooed, feigning concern. "Such a shame about the vandalism. But don't worry, we're working on a solution." "The solution is to stay off my property," I snapped. Karen's smile vanished, replaced by a glint of malice. "Careful, Connor. It'd be a shame if things escalated further." Feeling cornered, I decided to reach out to my neighbors. Most of them were too afraid to speak out against Karen, but one, an older man named Jack, agreed to meet me privately. Jack had lived in Ridgewood Heights for decades and knew all the homeowner association's dirty secrets. "Karen's not the real power here," he told me over coffee. "She's just the face. The real problem is the president of the homeowner association, Victor Sloan. He's the one pulling the strings." Jack explained that Victor had a side deal with a local construction company to develop a new parking structure. "My lot was the first piece of the puzzle. If they get your land, they'll move on to the next property," Jack said grimly. His words lit a fire under me. This wasn't just about my parking lot anymore. It was about standing up to systemic corruption. With Jack's help, I began collecting evidence, meeting minutes, financial records, and testimonies from other residents. The more we uncovered, the clearer it became that the homeowner association was rotten to its core. The turning point came when I attended the next homeowner association meeting. Karen, of course, was seated front and center, flanked by Victor Sloan and other board members. I stood up during the public comment period and presented the evidence Jack and I had gathered. "This is proof that the homeowner association is abusing its power," I declared, holding up a stack of documents. "Karen and Victor are conspiring to steal private property for their own gain." The room erupted into chaos. Karen shouted over me, accusing me of lying, while Victor tried to maintain his composure. But the whispers among the other residents were growing louder. For the first time, I saw doubt in their eyes. "You'll regret this," Karen hissed as I walked out of the meeting. "We'll make sure of it." That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Sure enough, my cameras caught another drone hovering outside my window. This time, I didn't call the police. Instead, I used a high-powered flashlight to blind the drone's camera, forcing it to retreat. Karen and Victor were upping the stakes, but so was I. The battle was far from over, but I wasn't alone anymore. With Jack's help and a growing list of allies, I was determined to expose the homeowner association's corruption and take back what was mine. The question was, how far were they willing to go to stop me? By now, the battle over my parking lot had consumed every corner of my life. My days were spent dealing with legal filings, repairing vandalism, and dodging Karen's endless provocations. But the deeper I dug into the homeowner association's affairs, the more sinister the situation became. Victor Sloan, the president of the association, was at the center of it all, pulling strings from the shadows while Karen acted as his enforcer. It was time to take the fight to him directly. Jack and I continued to piece together the evidence, poring over financial records and meeting minutes. Late one night, Jack called me, his voice trembling with excitement. "Matthew, I found something," he said. "Victor's been funneling money from the association's funds into a shell company. It's tied to a construction firm, the same one that's been targeting your lot." The documents Jack uncovered showed massive payments to Ridge Development Co., a company registered under an alias that traced back to Victor himself. This wasn't just about my parking lot. It was a massive scheme to exploit the residents of Ridgewood Heights. Before I could act on the evidence, Karen struck again. This time, she organized a neighborhood petition claiming that my behavior, including my refusal to cooperate with the homeowner association, was causing harm to the community. She went door to door, twisting the story to make me look like the villain. A few neighbors signed out of fear or ignorance, but many others refused. One neighbor, Mrs. Bellamy, confronted Karen on my behalf. "This isn't about the community," she snapped. "You're just trying to bully Matthew because he's standing up to you." Karen's smug demeanor cracked for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "We'll see what the board has to say about that," she retorted. With Jack's evidence in hand, I requested a formal hearing with the homeowner association board. The meeting was tense from the start. Victor sat at the head of the table, his expression cold and calculating, while Karen hovered nearby like a vulture. I presented the financial records, laying out the evidence of Victor's embezzlement. The room fell silent as I finished. One board member, visibly uncomfortable, spoke up. "Victor, is this true?" Victor didn't flinch. "These accusations are baseless," he said smoothly. "Mr. Connor is desperate and trying to smear my name." Karen chimed in. "Exactly. He's been nothing but trouble since this whole parking lot issue began." But the doubt was spreading. Several board members exchanged uneasy glances, and one even asked to review the documents. I could see cracks forming in their united front. But Victor wasn't going down without a fight. The next morning I woke to chaos. My property was covered in graffiti. "Community First" and "Sell Out" were spray-painted across my fence and driveway. My security cameras captured two masked figures fleeing the scene, but their identities were hidden. Then my mailbox exploded. Literally. Someone had stuffed it with fireworks, causing a small explosion that left it mangled and smoking. It was a clear message: back off, or things would get worse. I reported both incidents to the police, but their response was the same as before. "It's a civil matter." Frustrated but undeterred, I called Jenna, my lawyer, who promised to push the authorities to take action. The escalation only strengthened my resolve. I reached out to local media, sharing my story and the evidence of the homeowner association's corruption. Within days, a local news station aired an expose on the situation, featuring interviews with me, Jack, and other affected residents. The report put Victor and Karen under a harsh spotlight, and public opinion began to turn against them. Karen's reaction was immediate and unhinged. She confronted me in front of my house, screaming about libel and slander. Neighbors gathered to watch as I calmly held up my phone, recording her meltdown. "This isn't over, Connor," she shrieked before storming off. A few days later, I received an unexpected visitor, Victor himself. He arrived unannounced, dressed impeccably, and exuding fake charm. "Matthew," he began, "let's be reasonable. This conflict isn't helping anyone. How about we settle this quietly? I'll ensure the board stops pursuing your lot if you drop your accusations." I stared at him, barely able to contain my anger. "Settle? You mean let you keep stealing from the community?" "No, Victor. This ends in court." His facade slipped, and his voice turned icy. "You're making a mistake, Connor. People who cross me don't fare well." As he left, I knew the final battle was approaching. Victor and Karen were growing desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. But I had truth on my side, and I wasn't going to back down now. With the trial date looming, I doubled down on my preparations. Jenna filed additional motions to subpoena homeowner association records, and Jack rallied more neighbors to support me. The tide was turning, but the fight was far from over. Every step forward brought new challenges, and I knew Victor and Karen had one last trick up their sleeves. The question was, what would they do next? As the trial date approached, Tensions in Ridgewood Heights reached a boiling point. Victor and Karen's desperation was evident in their escalating tactics, but I was prepared for their next move. The small victories we'd gained, exposing their corruption and rallying support, were starting to turn the tide, yet the final battle was looming, and the stakes had never been higher. One evening, I came home to find my driveway blocked by a large dumpster overflowing with debris. A handwritten sign taped to it read, "Community Improvement in Progress." Furious, I called the company listed on the dumpster, only to learn it had been rented under my name. Karen and Victor were behind it, of course, and it was yet another attempt to intimidate me. My lawyer, Jenna, filed a restraining order against Karen on my behalf, citing harassment and property interference. It was a small but significant step, as the court's approval meant Karen could no longer directly approach me without risking legal consequences. Her reaction was predictable, a public meltdown in which she claimed I was unhinged and harming the community. Jack's investigation unearthed another bombshell, a contract between the Homeowner Association and Ridge Development Courtroom that detailed plans to convert not just my parking lot, but several nearby properties into a commercial complex. The signatures on the document included Victor's and, shockingly, Karen's, listed as an advisor. This revelation was the smoking gun we needed to expose their true motives. With this new evidence, I called a neighborhood meeting. Over 24 residents packed into my living room, their anger palpable as Jack and I presented the contract. Murmurs of betrayal rippled through the crowd, and several people vowed to testify on my behalf. The next day, Karen staged a rally in the community park, framing herself as the victim of a witch hunt. She claimed my accusations were baseless and that my selfishness was stalling progress. Victor stood beside her, silent but visibly uneasy. Their show of unity was a facade. Cracks in their alliance were becoming more apparent. I attended the rally with Jenna and Jack, standing silently at the back until Karen's rant turned into a direct attack on me. "Matthew Connor doesn't care about this community," she declared. "He only cares about himself." That was when I stepped forward. "If I only cared about myself, Karen, I wouldn't be fighting to stop you and Victor from stealing from everyone here," I said, holding up the contract. Gas spread through the crowd as I read aloud the details of their scheme. Karen's face turned beet red. "This is slander!" she shrieked, but the damage was done. Residents began to leave the rally, muttering angrily about her lies. That night, my security cameras captured another act of vandalism. Someone had slashed the tires on my car and spray-painted "Traitor" across my garage door. I reported it to the police, who finally seemed to take my complaint seriously after the media attention. Jenna pushed for an investigation into Victor and Karen, citing their repeated harassment and the new evidence of their corruption. Meanwhile, Jack's neighbors rallied around me, organizing a petition to demand Victor's resignation as president of the Homeowner Association. The petition gained traction quickly, putting even more pressure on Victor. With just days until the trial, Karen and Victor's actions grew more erratic. Karen tried to delay the proceedings by filing frivolous motions, while Victor attempted to intimidate witnesses who planned to testify against him. Despite their efforts, Jenna and I remained steadfast. The evidence we had gathered, from the forged documents to the testimonies of residents, was irrefutable. On the eve of the trial, Jack came to my house with one last piece of evidence, an audio recording of a conversation between Victor and Karen, in which they openly discussed their plans to force Connor out and profit from the redevelopment project. The recording was damning, and it gave me hope that justice might finally prevail. The next morning, as I prepared to head to court, I felt a mixture of nerves and determination. This was it, the culmination of months of harassment, deception, and resistance. No matter what happened, I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't going down without a fight. The day of the trial arrived, and the courthouse buzzed with anticipation. Neighbors, reporters, and curious onlookers filled the room. This was more than just a legal dispute over a parking lot. It had become a symbol of resistance against the corruption of the Homeowner Association and Karen's tyrannical antics. Victor and Karen arrived separately, their previously united front clearly fractured. Karen glared at me as she passed, her expression a mix of anger and desperation. Victor, on the other hand, kept his composure, though the tension in his jaw betrayed his unease. Jenna opened our case with a powerful statement, presenting the stack of evidence we'd meticulously gathered. She walked the court through the forged documents, the illegal contracts, and the harassment campaign waged against me. The audio recording Jack had uncovered was the nail in the coffin. The judge's stern expression as the recording played gave me a glimmer of hope. Karen's lawyer, by contrast, struggled to mount a credible defense. Her theatrical claims of being a victim of Matthew's vendetta fell flat, especially when cross-examination revealed her role as an advisor in the redevelopment scheme. Victor's lawyer attempted to discredit the evidence, but it was too overwhelming to ignore. After hours of arguments, the judge finally delivered her ruling. The evidence clearly demonstrates a coordinated effort to defraud the plaintiff and the community of Ridgewood Heights, she declared. The court orders the immediate cessation of all redevelopment plans and imposes penalties against Victor Sloan and Karen for their actions. Relief washed over me as the verdict was announced. Victor remained stoic, though his lawyer whispered furiously in his ear. Karen, however, couldn't contain herself. She leapt to her feet, shouting, "This isn't fair! This is all lies!" before being escorted out of the courtroom by security. In the weeks that followed, the fallout from the trial rippled through Ridgewood Heights. Victor resigned as president of the Homeowner Association, his reputation in shambles. Karen faced fines and community backlash, with many neighbors cutting ties with her entirely. The Homeowner Association itself underwent a complete overhaul, with new leadership promising transparency and fairness. Jack became something of a local hero for his role in uncovering the corruption. Residents began speaking out about their own grievances, and a renewed sense of unity emerged in the neighborhood. As for me, I finally felt the weight lift from my shoulders. My parking lot was mine again, and the sense of justice was worth every sleepless night. One sunny afternoon, as I worked to repaint the lines on my parking lot, Jack stopped by with 2 cups of coffee. "Looks like you've got your peace back," he said with a grin. I nodded, watching Milo chase a butterfly across the yard. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. They thought they could bully me into submission, but they were wrong. Jack clinked his cup against mine. "Here's to standing up for what's right." The scars of the battle remained, but they were a reminder of the strength it took to fight back. Ridgewood Heights would never be the same, but it was better for it. And as for Karen and Victor, they'd underestimated the power of a determined homeowner and paid the price for their arrogance.